sense to me. Okay, we can go on all night on this topic. Okay, so hi. If you don't know me, I'm Coach Leah. I am standing in for Christy tonight. She's at a seminar, and I'm really excited to see everybody's face. It's like really cool. I haven't done a Sunday call in a long, long time, so nice to see everybody. Okay, so I don't think there's any announcements. I think this is just kind of a normal week of doing the grind and doing the stuff, if any week is really normal. So last week we did a food journal, right? And so that probably taught us a lot about what we're eating, even if it was just a one day. Sometimes I eat things that I don't even remember I eat, you know what I'm saying? And so sometimes I go, oh, wow, I ate that. Or, you know, oh, wow, I'm eating that little, or, oh, wow, I eat not enough protein, or wow, you know, whatever we learned from our food journal. And so this week we're going to talk about the food that we consume the most often that's in our pantry, or that's in a package. So this is not a judgment piece. This is not like, is it too many calories? Is it too high in fat? It's nothing like that. It's just, we're going to read the label of that particular food. We all have one. I have one. And just learn about it and read the ingredients and read the macros, the sodium, the sugar, all the things about the food label. I know for myself, I'm doing an elimination diet right now, right? And this is my first week that I've successfully completed following my guidelines. And so I've had to read every food label. I'm a hot sauce freak. Oh my gosh, lots of hot sauces have sugar. I had no clue. And I didn't really care before, right? Because hot sauce gets a pass in my book. And sometimes so do tortilla chips. So that's like something that I always buy, that's always in my pantry. And I'll semi-read the label because I can very easily be dishonest with myself when I want to eat something, right? Or when, whatever. So I kind of read the label. I might read the calories, but I'll just like on accident not see the serving size. And so I'll make up the serving size, or I'll say I'll have double, triple the serving size and just say that I had the serving size. So that's another thing that I've learned from reading labels this week is like, wow, are my portions even in check? But also being on elimination diet, reading all the labels, I have realized that I'm not even eating enough food, because when you take things out of your diet, I'm not eating enough food. So I also learned that from labels. So what I want to talk about is like, what food is in your pantry? Let me ask this question. Can everybody think, just nod yes or no, can everybody think of one packaged food that is in their pantry that they buy on a consistent basis that is always in there? You're in the store, it's not even an option not to buy it. Lots of things are, you pass up the Oreos maybe, or maybe your Oreos are your thing. You pass up the Oreos, you pass up the chips, but you're always getting the blank. Does everybody have something? I mean, that's good, I'm not alone. Another thing we can learn from these labels are we getting enough protein, fat, macros? A lot of times, like I hear a lot peanut butter. I ate peanut butter for my protein. Well, it may seem like when you read the label, the protein and fat may be close to each other, but it's more of a fat. So that's kind of another thing we're thinking about when we're reading labels is like, what is this on my plate, right? Think about your Fitme plate. Like, what is this on my Fitme plate? What category does this go in? So that's another thing we can learn from reading labels. Your target for the week is to find that food. I know we all have one. So take a picture of it, read the label, send the picture to your coach, and talk about what you learned about it. Or maybe you'll have a question about it, like, oh, geez, I actually don't know where this really fits into my diet. Remember, it's not a judgment piece. It's not a weight loss, bad food deal. It's just an educational piece, kind of like the food journal was. So I want to open it up to you guys and just talk about, what are you thinking with your food? You know, now that you think about it, because when Christy gave me this target to talk about, I was like, oh, Like I never really thought about the specific brand of tortilla chip that I always buy every single time. I never, it's a pass. I give it a pass. And I think we all have that food we give a pass. And so, yeah, what are we going to learn from this food we give a pass to?
All right, so I have a question, Leah. So, what do you do when your mom continues to make homemade rolls and there's no label?
That's tough. That is tough. I don't really know. That's a hard one. That's a hard one because I don't know. I don't have anybody that cooks for me. So when I don't bake a lot, guess what? I eat the dough. I eat the whatever immediately. So let's just talk about packaged foods that we can read the label. Will your mom move in with me and cook, please, for me?
I have one suggestion for the question though. MyFitnessPal, it's awesome. I don't know how many people used it last week to track, but they have in MyFitnessPal where you can create a recipe. So if you have your mom enter all of the ingredients using the recipe and you can say how many servings, it will break down the carbs, protein, and fat for you for those rolls. Just FYI.
Yeah, I've thought about that, but it's a lot. And I just really have been too lazy to even do it.
But it's an
Maybe
option.
I'll do it just so that I know.
Yeah, and you can scan the labels, which is nice too. So if it has a barcode on whatever packaging, you can scan it in.
I'll give it a try this week, and I'll track down her recipe, and I'll try it, and I'll get back to you guys with that one.
Kind of along those lines, also with reading the label, like reading the label doesn't mean we find out maybe some not favorable things about this food we love so much. It's not really about like, oh my God, I can't ever buy this again. It's kind of more like, okay, here's the facts, the data of this food. I need to cut that back to once a week or a couple times a week, or really count out my portion, put it in a bowl, put it away. Like that's with the food that we, doesn't have a label, we're not doing like bad food, good foods, all or nothing type of thing. It's just kind of more like an awareness piece. Like I can put my hand in that bag of chips 50 times in 1 week. And so it's just learning about our habits is kind of what this is about. And, where we can fit this food into our goals, into our habits.
I know for me, it's Jif peanut butter. Like I immediately went to my pantry and pulled that out and showed it because Jif peanut butter. I effing love peanut butter. I eat it. I was raised with my dad will literally put peanut butter on everything, like to the point where I put peanut butter on a tuna sandwich. Like, no lie.
Lauren, that's disgusting.
Hey, it's delicious.
No,
Get outta here.
no, no.
That's
That
disgusting.
is wrong.
Good, you don't know, guys. Stop judging me.
No,
Sorry.
it's true. It's true. Sometimes these foods are just things that we've grown up with. That maybe they're nostalgic. Yeah. Maybe they're, they're just have been there forever, and so we don't even think about consuming them. We just do.
Yeah. And I know that like when I first started Fitme, because I'm like right now I'm counting macros, but my entire weight loss journey, I never counted anything. And I was still successful using the habits. But when there was a homework piece when we first started that, and it might still be in there in the 12-week nutrition program where that week you just look at your labels. It's not saying, it's just exactly what Leah was saying, like no judgment around it, just bringing awareness. And so flipping over every single thing that you eat that is pre-packaged and looking at it. And I didn't care about, like, I never really looked at, and I still tell a lot of my people this, I don't look at the protein and the fat necessarily, but I look at the ingredients first, and then I look at the sodium second, and then I look at the sugar. Like usually ingredients will tell me sugar anyway, but ingredients and sodium. And so, yes, that's the shaker. Sorry. And so that really opened my eyes to a lot of things. But I'll tell you this right now, like I couldn't tell you what the ingredients that Jif peanut butter is because I don't want to look at it. I eat it every day, and now I eat it in like the proper proportion, and it hasn't inhibited me in any way. But I'm sure there's stuff in that Jif peanut butter that I probably wouldn't want to eat if I. But I'm not about the bougie peanut butter life, so.
Hard to
but I
stir.
will look
It's
at
hard
it
to
this week.
stir.
It's a pain to stir. Your kids get it all over your dishwasher. At least that's what just happened at my house. So along the same lines as peanut butter, I don't eat very many packaged things. I'm like literally racking my brain right now, but I jip myself on nut butter all the time. I'm like, oh, that looks like a tablespoon. And when I was tracking, I was like, I'm going to actually measure it. I was like giving myself a half a tablespoon. And I was like, oh my gosh, I can have more than that. And so I think for me, it's like really I really noticed, well, I wasn't eating enough apparently, which feels super weird postpartum and all that stuff, but it's kind of part of my head game, I think. That's what I do postpartum. I just restrict. And so I showed my stuff to Rachel and she's like, I really don't think you're eating enough. And so she's actually having me track for a whole nother week because she needs to see the balance, because hopefully it balances out. I'm hoping. But I think that, I don't know, when I like break it down, sometimes I either over or underestimate like what I'm eating. Like you said, Leah, like sometimes you're like, oh, that's only one serving. I'm going to track one serving. And then you eat 5.
Another thing, like an observing piece when you're reading your labels is, okay, so I'm trying to get off this powdered caffeine that I've been addicted to for a long, long time. It has this ingredient called carrageenan in it, right? And I didn't even give a crap what that was because I loved this drink so much. But now I researched it a little while ago and I was like, ooh, that's like really gross. It's like some emulsifier or, it's some really crappy ingredient. So like, that's another thing to look at. Like, are you overlooking an ingredient you can't read because you can't read it and you don't know what the hell it is and you don't care because you like this product? Maybe I challenge you to Google that ingredient and see, and that may change your mind on how much you actually like, this favorite food. I think I glaze over ingredients that I can't read or don't know what it is all the time.
Or how many ingredients there are. When we lived overseas, France had a rule that you couldn't bring anything to the kids' school that had more than 10 ingredients. And I think of that all the time when I look at boxes of like crap granola bars or something. I'm like, oh my gosh, the whole back of this is covered in ingredients. I don't even know what they say.
So I tend to like, similar to that, like with Greek yogurt, I think, oh, Greek yogurt, it's like healthy for you and it's better than ice cream. And then I will literally have an entire bowl of the Greek yogurt thinking, well, it's healthy. So the more I have, it's like healthier. And then you don't see like all the sugar that's involved because you think, well, there's it's protein. It's like the peanut butter thing. Like there's protein in it. So this is like a win-win. This is good.
Sugar's hidden everywhere. And I think it's hard to avoid, I think it's really hard to get like 0 sugars in a day. Just being aware, and condiments are king of sugar. And so just kind of being aware of the condiments, like maybe there's a condiment that you use all the time, because I tend to not even read the labels on the condiment. Like it's just a condiment, right? Well, wrong sometimes.
Yeah, ketchup is like a ton of sugar.
When they label so many, like those Greek yogurts, like the ones that are like the way they label it makes it sound so healthy too. I remember my husband was really into the protein, 2 times protein oikos or whatever. And then I looked and there's like fake sugar in it. And he already is addicted to Diet Coke. And I was like, you don't need any more of this. Like, you don't need any more fake sugar. And because it was making him want to eat more sugar, which totally, whenever I have fake sugar, I want all the sugar. Give me more chocolate chips, real chocolate chips, because of the fake sugar.
Amy, that brings up a really amazing point,
Mhm.
that using the verbiage that marketing and advertising people use. I come from the marketing world. Like, that's what I did as a career. And I have an advertising degree. And so the manipulation tactics that people use, that companies use to like convince us of that things are going to be healthy, just like Sarah was saying, like Greek yogurt, that's healthy, right? You know, like using words like sugar free or vegan or gluten free on like legit, some fruit roll-ups had gluten free tag on their grocery store label. Well, if there's gluten in this, like there's something wrong, but it's not healthy. Like, it's just gluten free, you know, like it's, so things like that, like there are so many tactics out there. Heart healthy, like what makes it heart healthy? But I used to work for a company that specifically marketed for grocery stores. Like, that was our target audience. And we made those tags and we created a lot of like the data that goes into figuring out if something qualifies for those things. But they always mean something else. Like, if you see sugar free, that means that they're sweetening it with some kind of chemical. Like, that's exactly what that means. That doesn't mean that there's nothing in it. It means there's no actual sugar in it, but it means that it means something else. So bring awareness to like the shelf edge and look at, like, when you see something like that, be like, okay, what are they trying to trick, how they try to trick me is how I look at it now. And so really bringing awareness to that piece and just being like, this is being used to manipulate me into buying this thing and make me think it's actually healthy. Let me look at the actual ingredients and the actual, like, what's really going on here. And it's really kind of mind-boggling and very shady if you think about it.
Super shady. Those protein bars that you told us about over Christmas, Lauren. So I was using those as a supplement to not eat all my in-laws' crap during the day. And then I like looked at the back of it one day and I was like, holy cow, there's so much fat in these. And I wasn't even thinking, because I was like, this is better than those cookies that are on that counter when I was in California. And yeah, but then so I was eating like one every like other day. And I was like, we got home and I was like, I'm going to buy more of those. And then I actually looked because I was home and I'm like, oh my gosh, I didn't even think that there'd be fat, because never have I eaten a protein bar that had fat in it. Am I the only one?
Yeah, no, bars and stuff, like that's like my travel emergency things, but those are definitely not things I would like keep on hand and stuff. But it's really interesting. It's really interesting what they do. Like Cliff Bars. I used to think Cliff Bars were healthy. They have like 24 grams of sugar in them, guys.
There's so much sugar in Cliff Bars.
It's so great.
So bad.
Oftentimes those things that catch our eye, the Oinko 0% or, you know, skinny latte or whatever it is, you look at their ingredients and it's like unreadable, very long, blah, blah, blah. And only for like 50 or 60 more calories. Like, that's not that much. You could get the real deal, the full fat, you know, dairy, sugar, regular sugar, for not that much more. And so we kind of, that's another learning piece, is like learning, you know, seeing what has the chemical stuff in it versus the real sugar. You know, I mean, I'd rather have something with full fat dairy and a little bit of cane sugar than like, who knows what kind of dairy and like all the blah, 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 blah sugars in it. So that's kind of another just educational piece, is like, what product do we want to put in our bodies? You know, like thinking about treating ourselves well with our products that we eat and what we're putting into our bodies, versus like, am I going to lose weight or not? Is for me more motivating to want to eat the things that, you know, treat myself well and make my body feel good, versus having that like, I want to lose weight, so I'm going for the Oinko's 0%. It's just a kind of another way to reframe and make you want to look at labels so that, you know, you're treating your body well.
You know what's a really good one too to look at is the salad dressings. Next time you guys go into the store, go to the salad dressing and look at two that are right next to each other that are like the same brand, the one that's light and one that's not. That is such a good picture of like, because the light one is going to have way more ingredients. Like the ingredients list might be 4 things for the regular one. And like Leah was saying, like the calorie amount and like the fat amount might not be that different, but they slap the word light on there and then they pack it with like a bunch of unreadable crap. And for what? And so it's really that one for me, like literally side by side, 2 things that are almost exactly the same from the same company. And just that it's very eye-opening when we start to look. So I love this topic.
I
Plus
do
the
too.
light and fat-free stuff makes you fart.
Well, it makes my stomach hurt. I don't eat anything with aspartame or any artificial sweeteners in it. It really upsets my stomach. I had so many intestinal issues for years, did the whole 30 and eliminated everything, do paleo, and anytime I incorporate something outside the parameters of that, I start having issues and bloating, and I'm so uncomfortable. So yeah, you can read the labels and that diet culture that's like, look, it's light or low fat, or really look at what you're putting into your body, because that may be what it is that's causing you to bloat and feel heavy and not look like be comfortable in your own skin. It causes rashes and all sorts of stuff that I'm just not willing to put it in there.
It's crazy.
Insane.
Yeah, it's crazy. Has anybody ever overeaten like sugar-free chocolate?
Lauren, tell us about it.
Back when I used to be on diets and I ate like a shit ton of sugar-free chocolate one time. Oh my God,
Joey.
guys. It was bad. It was bad news. Bad news bears, guys.
Where do you get sugar-free chocolate?
Don't tell her. Don't
I've
tell
never
her.
seen it.
I've never heard of that.
1, it's disgusting. And 2, like they have it like Russell Stover's or whatever. Like those, they have like sugar-free chocolate and sugar-free candy. And that stuff will mess you up.
I used to think sugar-free gummy bears. Yeah.
Have you ever read the reviews for those sugar-free gummy bears? Look it up, you guys. Find the reviews for the sugar-free gummy bears. You won't be disappointed.
So does everybody have their packaged food in mind, that they're going to look at the label and look at all the ingredients? And I highly suggest, if you don't know what an ingredient is, Google it. Because you probably won't like what you find.
Hey,
Hey,
Leah.
Leah.
Yes.
Can,
Okay, go
it's May. Can I just offer up another warning about a food? I have celiac, so I have to eat gluten-free. And I don't know, sometimes people like to experiment with that, but just like with the artificial sweeteners, when they're making gluten-free baked goods, they put either guar gum or xanthan gum in it. And if you think some of the artificial sweeteners can tear you up, that stuff can cause a full-scale evacuation within, like, I mean, it's really wicked. So just be careful. Maybe 2 animal crackers are good. A box is not. All right. So just tuck that away for future use.
Oh my God.
Hey, Leah.
Yes, Kristen.
Having gone dairy-free in my dietary lifestyle for health reasons, you know, I was not reading my labels very carefully of the diet-free, not the diet-free, the dairy-free cheese alternatives. And recently I happened to look and I was like, holy shit, look at all the saturated fat. I mean, I'm okay with having healthy fats, but the saturated fat content of that fat, the percentage, I was like, oh, this is not good. Because, I mean, it's of my intuition that saturated fat is, no matter what kind it is, where it's coming from, it's not good, right?
Yeah, you don't want to eat all your fats as, saturated fat. I wouldn't call that like the most ideal. They have to do that in dairy free because they're trying to emulate dairy, which has a lot of fat in it.
Right.
And that's also a good one, is like when you're switching from a product, is just like compare what you're giving up for what you're taking. When you say yes to something, what do you say no to? When you say no to somebody, you say yes to. So that's also something you can learn from reading labels.
Right.
I want to take a picture of us before we go. Everybody there? Yeah, everybody's there. Oh, wait. Wow, that's a big picture. Okay, everybody say cheese.
Cheese.
I think I got it. Let me look. Yes, I do. And everybody looks really beautiful. It's perfect. It's the best picture of everybody. Does anybody else have anything they want to say on this topic before we go? I just want to add one more thing. Just because I bloat really bad, and I'm with Lauren, I always look at the sodium because I just carry water weight. Sodium like really affects me. So if you never look at the sodium, maybe looking at the sodium and just seeing how much you're taking in a day. When we're eating whole foods primarily, let's say, we don't get as much sodium in as when we're eating just processed food crap all the time, because whole foods don't, unless you salt and pepper your food very well. But I'm just throwing it out there. Like, sodium may not affect you, but I think it's one that tends to get overlooked. So
I want to add to that really quick that when you're going whole foods, because exactly what Coach Lee was saying, like a lot of times if we're making a big shift from a lot of processed to like completely whole foods, we can have like a drop in sodium. So if we're feeling like we're dragging, or we're feeling like we can help our body stay hydrated with sodium. So it's not a bad thing. It's definitely something to just have awareness around. But I'm exactly like Leah. Like, I will swell. Like, last night I had Mexican food with my girlfriends after the baby shower, and this morning, like, my eyes were so puffy and my fingers were swollen. So like I can tell when I have a shift in it. But if you're feeling kind of like blah and you're not really sure why, and like it's because you've been eating really clean, try adding some salt to your food, or like find one of those like electrolyte drink things, like the Noon tablets or something. I don't know if that's how you say that, Noon. But yeah, that was just a thought that I had about the sodium, because when we eliminate it, I've had to actually have people add some back into their diets before.
So we all know what the target is, right? We're taking a picture and texting it to our coach and telling our coach what we've learned from this food that we maybe love so dearly. And thinking about if you have any ailments. Are you bloated sometimes? Are you, gassy? Are you tired? Are you any of the things? Like, think about how you feel after you eat this food. Is it this food? Like, you never know. You never know. And I'm learning that this week, I guess. So thank you, ladies. It was really nice to see everybody that I don't get to see on a regular basis anymore. So totally awesome. Hey, Nikki. Totally awesome. And I will see you guys later, I guess. Bye.
Bye, guys.